Maybe you've seen a competitor featured in a local newspaper, radio station, or TV station, and you've wondered, hey, how do I get my MSP free publicity like that? Well, my guest today is at the very heart of generating PR results, public relations, free publicity, and he's going to tell you exactly how to do it. Hey, I'm Paul Green, and don't forget, for all the content, tools, and training to market and grow your MSP, check out MSPmarketingedge.com. Today's special guest will tell you why press releases are still a valid tool for MSPs in 2024, and also how to cut through and get in front of the journalists you most want to reach.
Hi, I'm Mickie Kennedy, and I'm the president and founder of eReleases Press Release Distribution. I specialize in helping people get earned media through press releases, and I've been doing this for a little over 25 years.
And that makes you royalty in the terms of PR and media, I think, Mickie. And, you know, I had a PR company which I started 7 years after you started yours, and I'm pretty sure we used eReleases back in the day to get some press releases out. So it's awesome to actually be speaking to you all this time. For those people listening to the podcast on audio only, you have to check out this interview on YouTube as well, because Mickie has, quite frankly, the wildest pair of glasses that I've ever seen. Can you describe them, Mickie?
Sort of like intense rainbow glasses. I got them for Pride 3 years ago, and I happened to get headshots then. And so every time I showed up to a podcast after June, people were like, oh, you don't have the glasses. So I had to start putting them back on, and I just realized now it's my thing.
It is. You'll be a 95-year-old man in a care home somewhere, and people will still expect you to have the rainbow glasses back from 2021. So let's start at the beginning, Mickie, and let's talk about what are press releases, what's a press release distribution company, what do you do, and what when a business owner like an MSP is sending out a press release, what is it that they're hoping to achieve from that?
Basically, a press release is an announcement written usually in the third person. You can have a quote where you could talk in the first person, and it's an announcement that you're sending to the media. You can actually physically send it to the media by email or mail, but predominantly to get the maximum amount of coverage, you use a newswire. And here in the United States, there's two major newswires, PR Newswire and Business Wire. They probably control like 90% of the marketplace. And we partnered with PR Newswire around 15 years ago. So all of the releases that go out through us go out through PR Newswire nationally. With PR Newswire, it's about $1,800 approximately to move a 600-word press release. And through us, it's about 25% to 30% of that cost, mostly because our audience are smaller companies that PR Newswire doesn't spend time reaching out to because their budgets are too small. But in aggregate, we're able to drive a lot of sales to them because we do like 10,000 to 12,000 releases a year. So, it gives us an advantage for being able to purchase at a really good rate with them. And, as far as what the goal of this is to get earned media, and that's to get actual articles written about you based on what you're announcing. Examples of types of releases that people generally do are like when you have a new product or a refresh of a product or service. Basically, if you have a big milestone in your business, like you've reached, a certain milestone of number of customers or an anniversary or things along those lines. And, the ultimate goal of sending this out is to see yourself in print or online. And generally it results in eyeballs looking at you, potential leads, potential sales. And even more importantly, you can take that earned media, that link to an article, and share it with your own leads and share it with your own audience. Because the thing that happens with the earned media is it's a huge credibility boost. It's like third-party corroboration when a journalist writes about you. It's a huge signal of trust. And as a result, it really makes you look good, and it makes people want to work with you.
That's a really comprehensive answer, and thank you. And I think you're right. It's the credibility these days that's really more important, certainly for an MSP. You know, if you can get your local newspaper, your local radio, maybe even your local TV station to talk about something that your business has done, is that going to generate leads? Maybe not. But is it going to get people talking? Yes. Your existing clients may see it or hear it and say, hey, we heard you on the radio. You can also take that coverage and you can use it again and again and again across all of your marketing for massive credibility. Because even today in 2024, where, let's be honest, anybody can get any message to any person, quite unlike how it was back in 1998, even today, the media has a certain amount of credibility, and people still perceive that journalists pick the very best experts, the very best stories for people to consume. Let's examine that change in the media. So you started in 1998. Back at that time, I was working in a radio station in the UK, Mickie, and I remember, if you go back to then, there was no Google. I don't think Google itself had even launched in 98. Certainly Google AdWords didn't exist. There was no real social media network. So it was, as we said, the media, and what made the media rich in the 20th century was they controlled the distribution of messages. Now, obviously, come forward 26 years, that's completely changed. Distribution is easy. Everybody can reach everybody. So what value does a service like yours still have for reaching those journalists?
Right. So the thing that happened is when I launched my business, I just did email distribution to journalists that I had reached out to and established a relationship when they said I could send them releases. What has changed at that time is media databases have come out and people are buying or licensing these databases. And, a yearly subscription can be anywhere from $8,000 to $25,000, depending on the database and the size of your company. And as a result, when a golf club company buys access to this database and then realize only 2,700 journalists are interested in golf products, they're like, well, there's like tens of thousands of financial analysts and banking people and business editors. Let's send it to them because, business owners and people in banking, they like to play golf. And as a result, there's so many off-targeted press releases and pitching going on through email. The journalist email are just, it's terrible. I mean, they have a hard time wading through it. PR firms, which usually rely on pitching through email and phone, have found that email is just hard to get through. Often they're having to call and tell them how to find a pitch that they sent via email, or just pitch over the phone because their email is just out of sorts. And the great thing about The Wire is that they can log in with their journalist credentials and look at their industry feed, and they can actually even customize it. So if I'm someone who covers, electronics, I can exclude, certain keywords. Like I'm not interested in anything that mentions like stereos or consumer retail outlets like Best Buy and things like that. So I can basically customize it so the feed I'm seeing is very targeted. So it's becoming more and more the main place that journalists are going and looking for stories, because it's the main place that's not crammed with spam and off-targeted stuff. So it really is great for that reason. And the fact that there's only 2 in the US, it makes it very easy for journalists to just fish in 2 ponds. It does make it difficult for new players to come in, because a journalist is like, I don't really want to go to a third place and look. I like being able to see 2. And as a result of basically being a duopoly in the U.S. market, you do pay a premium. Like I said, not unusual to pay between $1,600 and $2,000 for a national press release of 500, 600, 700 words, and so it can be very expensive as a result of that.
Yeah, I can imagine the irony that as the world has opened up and communication, as I said, from anyone to anyone is possible, that what has happened is the journalists have become completely overwhelmed, and they're focusing their attention on essentially a filtering, a relevance filtering, which is what these wire services offer. And for those of those listeners and viewers outside of the US, there are versions of this in many countries. I'm sure I'm a bit out of date with the media in the UK because I left that in 2005, but it's. I'm sure that there'll be a different version of this, and I'm sure there'll be a business like Mickie's business in the UK and in other Western countries as well. Let's turn and look at specific story suggestions that MSPs should be placing, Mickie. So about MSPs, obviously they're trying to reach typically local or niche or vertical business owners, decision makers in the kind of people that they want to work with. And one of the most common questions that I get from MSPs when we're talking about publicity and PR is what kind of story suggestions should I be sending out? You mentioned earlier a couple of good ideas like product releases and big milestones. What other kind of B2B story ideas do you see that work well?
I think that ones where you have data generally work very well. For example, doing a survey or study within your industry is a great way to position yourself as a thought leader, an expert in your industry because you authored the survey. And I recommend that for clients who just feel like, I don't know what we can do. I don't feel important enough. And I always, tell them that this is one type of press release that generally always gets earned media. You want to ask some meaningful, timely questions that people in your industry would want to know right now. Like, what are people's positions on, AI in your industry, or what are the threats to your industry? What are things around that? What are the challenges of MSP owners right now in your industry? You can look at trade publications to get a sense of that. You could also get a sense of what you would ask people if you were at a trade show or conference. You're like, hey, have you noticed lately that it seems like this? That could potentially be a question to ask, because the reason you're asking it is you haven't seen it in print yet, and you're not sure if this is just affecting your company or if it's something that could be industry-wide or regional. And as a result, these are all questions that are ripe for asking. Once you put together the survey, reach out to a small or independent trade association in your industry. And they exist in every vertical and every fraction of verticals, even in PR. Everybody knows the big guy, but there's 470 some last time I checked, public relations trade associations in the United States that are not the big one that everyone knows. Mm. And so you do want to see how if their membership sort of fits you, and then also you want to see what the size of them is. I usually like 700 members or more, because the goal is to get 100 people to complete the survey. I then approach that association and say, hey, could you send this link? I use SurveyMonkey. And I said, could you send this link to your members? In exchange, I'll mention you in a press release I'll be issuing over the wire through PR Newswire. The smaller associations, not a lot of people know about them. They don't get media attention. They often see this as a win-win, you incorporating them in the press release. If they seem a little hesitant, sometimes you can enhance it by co-branding the survey, as long as they don't want to get involved and start rewriting questions and all of that. And they're usually not. They're usually small and lean, and they're easy to work with. And I do tell them the goal is to get at least 100 responses. So if we don't, I go back to them and see if they can push that link on social media, maybe do another email send. But generally, I find that a lot of people are willing to do a survey for an association they belong to when they don't normally do surveys. And I then look at the results, figure out what the aha moments are, what's the most shocking or surprising thing here. And I generally focus the press release on that, maybe one other question. I do believe in building out a page on your website where you put all the questions and answers and include that link in your press release, because a really good journalist will go through and see if there's other questions that they might be able to build a story on around as well. And generally, when we send that out, you have an amazing quote by you as to why you felt the numbers skewed a particular way, putting a little analysis on you. Generally, we're looking at 4 articles, but, sometimes as many as 14 articles from one survey. And, that's something that anybody can do. It's a great way to position yourself. It generally always works, just making sure that you ask meaningful questions. And it's one of the ways to really stand out and grab some of that media attention and that authority, so that, as you put that on your website, these articles, as you share the links to these articles with your leads and your clients, it's going to greatly increase your authority. That signal of trust that comes from being in the media is really going to get out there, and you're going to find that your churn rate will go down, because people are less likely to shop around if they realize I'm with the right company. And the people that you normally don't convert, whatever that percentage is, you're going to find that you're going to move some of those over into customers just because of that earned media and putting that in front of them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Even existing clients are happy to see you as the MSP owner or the manager appearing in the media and being a thought leader and being an expert, because it reinforces that they made a smart choice to join you in the first place. I mean, even from just the idea you've been talking about there, my mind was racing thinking, hang on a second here, there's just so much content we can create out of one activity. So if you take the PR stuff and put that to one side, just the survey, right? So you've got the survey itself could become a blog article, could be also be something you put on LinkedIn. Even though very few people will respond, it's another piece of content. Then you got the actual results, it's another blog article, it's another piece on LinkedIn. The actual press release is another blog article, it's another piece on LinkedIn. And then of course, once you've been in, even if you're just in one media title, you can then do a blog post and a LinkedIn article or a newsletter about how, stories you've been featured in relevant media recently. So just, what's that, 4 or 5 different pieces of content just from one piece of activity. And that, I think, is what makes PR really, really sexy. So thank you so much for that idea, Mickie. That's a really cracking idea. Just tell us very briefly again, you did mention it at the beginning, but tell us briefly, what's the pitch for eReleases, and also what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The website's eReleases.com. You can contact us through chat, phone, or email. You'll only talk to editors. We have no salespeople, no commissions. All of our social media is on the lower right. I do have a free masterclass where I go through about a video of about an hour of the strategic types of releases people should focus on. Because I will be honest with you, the biggest criticism of press releases is they don't work. And I will agree that 97% of press releases do not work. And so what I've done is I've condensed the 3% that do regularly work, and that's in that masterclass of less than an hour-long video. Because I know that people aren't going to be watching 12 and 20-hour courses anymore. So it's available at eReleases.com/plan, PLAN. Again, completely free and a great place for someone to start, because if you go through that and brainstorm half a dozen strategic ideas for a press release, you'll be able to build a PR campaign of meaningful releases, and you'll have more hits than misses. And so you're not with that 97% of press releases that fail, but you're focusing on the 3% that do succeed, and that you will have good outcomes as a result.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.